go further afield now. The US Supreme Court appears to have been closely divided along ideological lines during tense arguments over President Barack Obama's healthcare law.
For more, our North America correspondent Craig McMurtry joins us now from Washington. Good morning, Craig. What do court observers think about the government's position after today's hearing?
Karina, they certainly think that it wasn't a good day for the Obama administration. This was day 2 of 3 days of oral arguments. Today, the heart of the president's healthcare overhaul was being looked at. That is, can the US government actually require citizens to purchase health insurance or face a penalty at tax time? Now, 26 states have argued this through the lower courts, challenging it, saying that this is an overreach by Washington, that the federal government under the US Constitution does not have this power, that it's trampling on individual rights. Tea Party patriots and other groups are also opposed and have been protesting outside the Supreme Court. Today, the 9 justices on the bench appeared to also split along an ideological divide. You had the 5 conservatives appointed by Republican presidents who appeared highly sceptical that the federal government does actually have this power. And when the US Solicitor General, Donald Verrilli, began, they immediately started grilling him, asking, well, does the federal government have the power to require Americans to eat broccoli, to buy a car, to exercise, to join a gym? To give you an idea, the Chief Justice, John Roberts, asked, can the government require Americans to buy a cell phone? Because then that would facilitate responding when they need emergency services. They could just dial 911. Another conservative justice, Alito, pointed out that the government wasn't asking Americans to take out burial insurance, saying that, quote, most people are going to need health care, almost everybody, but everybody's going to be buried or cremated at some point. And it was perhaps summed up by Justice Scalia, a very conservative judge, who said, what's left? If the government can do this, what else can it not do? Now, the 4 more liberal justices appointed by Democrat presidents appeared much more sympathetic toward the president's healthcare overhaul. But the difficulty, observers say, after listening to the question line today, is seeing where the White House, where the administration gets the swing vote. 5 will be needed. And they're saying, at the very least, it wasn't a good day for the administration. At the worst, it may suggest that this crucial part of this law could be overturned by the Supreme Court.
Now, many in Australia, Craig, would be really fascinated by this because we think that universal health care is a government responsibility and a service to be provided by government. Why is this such a divisive issue in the United States?
Well, it comes down, I think, to actually something that one family put to us yesterday. This was a family queuing up to get into the Supreme Court. They had come from out of town with their children because they saw this as a moment of history. Now, the mother said to us that she is a supporter of the President's healthcare changes because she views healthcare, the provision of healthcare, as a basic right. Her husband, however, is of a different mind. He thinks it is overreach. He sees the provision of healthcare as a privilege. And so it all comes down to individual rights. This argument that's been prosecuted now for 2 years in this country by opponents who say that it's trampling on individual rights, that it's big government, it's creeping socialism, and it fits into a narrative that they argue that Barack Obama is pursuing a big government agenda that the country can't afford. So that is at core what this argument is about.
So, Craig, when is a decision likely? And given that it is a presidential election year, how is it likely to play out in that scenario?
Well, it really does depend on what the 9 justices decide. It's important that we emphasise that this is all based on oral arguments and questions. The Supreme Court won't deliver its ruling probably till June. But this is a signature piece of legislation for President Obama. If they overturn it, that will be a big political blow for the president, for this administration. Tomorrow, the last day of oral arguments at the Supreme Court, they're going to consider if they ruled out one section of this legislation. It is a massive document, over 2,000 pages. Can the rest of it stand? And again, the opponents will be arguing tomorrow that this issue over whether you can force Americans to buy health insurance is so crucial that if they rule that that's unconstitutional, the whole thing has to be thrown out. And it means, after years and years of argument, in effect, America's back at square one, and this will almost certainly be one of the dominant issues of the coming presidential election campaign.
Craig McMurtry in Washington, thank you.
Okay.